Josh, if you could unmute the dice. Oh, there you go.
Good evening. It's April 18th and it's 5:30 and we will start the City Council meeting. My name is Barb Noseworthy and may we have the roll call, please?
Councillor Baxter,
Present.
Councillor Bosman,
Present.
Councillor Youssef,
Here.
and Mayor Noseworthy.
Present. Do we have a translator available?
Yes, Mayor, we do. We have Diego.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Diego Pons, here today on behalf of the Community Language Cooperative with my colleague Valentina. Can you hear my audio okay? Because it was glitchy over there. Okay, I'll continue. So thanks for having us at your meeting. The organizers of the meeting continue making a commitment towards language justice. This just means that we're here to help create a space so that people can participate and engage in the language of their heart, just simply a language that you feel most comfortable in. We'll continue using simultaneous interpretation in English and in Spanish here on Zoom today. So once I finish saying this in English, I'll repeat it in Spanish. Then at that moment, we'll start the interpretation. And as always, you'll be able to see that globe icon that says interpretation there on the bottom right-hand corner of your computer screen. Once you see that globe icon, please select it and please select your preferred language. If you happen to be joining today's meeting on your cell phone or your tablet, you'll instead be looking for the More button or the 3 dots button in order to select your preferred language that way. So if you're not fully bilingual, I'll ask you to select your preferred language so you may utilize the interpretation if someone were to speak in the opposite language. If you are bilingual, then please just feel free to listen to everyone in the original language. Once you select your language, you can check mute original audio so you don't have to be hearing both languages at the same time. And as always, just please pay attention to the speed in which you're speaking. Just please make sure that you're speaking at a conversational pace, and please make sure that you do not pick up your reading speed. So thank you so much for that. Buenas tardes a todos y todas. Yo soy Diego Pons. Estoy aquí hoy de parte de la Cooperativa Comunitaria de la Justicia del Lenguaje, el CLC, y estoy aquí con mi colega Valentina hoy. Como siempre, gracias por invitarnos hoy a su reunión. Los organizadores de esta reunión se han comprometido hoy a servir la justicia del lenguaje. Eso significa que queremos crear un espacio para que todas las personas puedan participar e involucrarse en el idioma de su corazón, que es simplemente el idioma en el que todas las personas se sientan más cómodas. Vamos a continuar hoy utilizando la interpretación simultánea aquí en Zoom para crear ese espacio en inglés y en español. Y cuando yo termine de decir esto, se va a activar la interpretación. Ya cuando esté activada la interpretación, usted va a poder ver un icono de un globo de la Tierra que dirá interpretación. Ahí abajo en la derecha de su pantalla, le vamos a pedir que por favor seleccione ese icono de globo de la Tierra cuando aparezca en su pantalla y por favor seleccione su idioma preferido. Pero si usted está asistiendo hoy a esta reunión en su celular o en su tableta, le vamos a pedir que por favor busque las opciones que dicen More, que quiere decir más, o posiblemente el botón de 3 puntos para que pueda seleccionar su idioma preferido de esa manera. Si usted no es completamente bilingüe, le vamos a aconsejar a que seleccione su idioma preferido para que pueda utilizar la interpretación cuando alguien esté hablando en el otro idioma. Pero si usted sí es bilingüe, siéntase libre hoy de escuchar a todos en su idioma original. Y como siempre, cuando usted seleccione su idioma, puede hacer clic en silenciar el audio original para no escuchar ambos idiomas al mismo tiempo. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Thank you. I will start this meeting as I have for the past year with a land acknowledgement. This is my statement. It is not a statement from all of council. For thousands of years, this region was home to numerous people, bands, tribes, and nations. Each had their distinct culture, artistic expression, and community mores. In particular, this region was the ancestral home of the Nuchu, Dene, Pueblo, Hopi, multiple Apache bands, and various other tribes and Latinx people who used and stewarded this land. I recognize that indigenous peoples were forcibly removed from their ancestral lands by the US government, and it is important to recognize that the narrative of this region has mostly been told from the dominant perspective without recognition of those who came before us and who to this day continue to thrive, create, and connect with this land. Thank you for your respect in my acknowledging this legacy. Thank you. The first item of business will be any perceived or potential conflicts of interest. Does anyone on the council have a perceived or actual conflict of interest? No. Okay, great. Then we will start with proclamations, and I believe we have Arbor Day. And is someone is. Who is, oh, there we are. Let me just sign this. Thank you. I'll read this and then you'll have a few minutes to
Okay,
make a
great.
statement if you'd like.
Thank you very
Right?
much.
All right, so. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas Durango, Colorado is a city located in a natural setting of great beauty. And whereas Durango, Colorado has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue its enhancement of its urban forests. And whereas the Parks and Recreation Department of the City of Durango will assist citizens, businesses, and organizations in making Durango a more beautiful place to live and do business. Now, therefore, I, Barbara Noseworthy, Mayor of the City of Durango, do hereby proclaim the week of April 17th through April 21 as to be Arbor Week. Thank you.
My name is Matt Biesecker. I'm the city arborist. I just was going to say a few things real quick to let you know what we're doing in forestry. We now maintain 11,445 trees with a crew of 4. We just hired 2 new employees. 2 of the 4 are International Society of Arboriculture certified. I personally renewed my track course, which is a tree risk assessment qualification, for 5 more years through ISA. Actually, that was in early 2023. Track allows me to assess risk trees. People used to say hazard, so now you can't say hazard unless the tree has been assessed by a qualified professional. The city of Durango has now been a Tree City USA member for 43 years now, and this is our 31st Growth Award year. There are not many Colorado communities that have had Tree City USA Award longer than Durango. Colorado Springs is one of them. I think they're at 45. This past year, Durango Forestry has pruned 897 trees. We've removed 131, and we've planted 142. We just got our RFP out to the public to obtain a new urban tree canopy assessment, to have our forest plan refurbished, and to get our tree inventory completely updated. These new updates will help Durango Forestry with management and maintenance plans for our urban forest. It will also help with determining the amount of employees needed to maintain an aging urban forest with 12,000 trees. This Friday, April 21st at 3:30 p.m., Durango Forestry will celebrate Arbor Day with local Girl Scout troops from Durango. We will plant 3 trees in Santa Rita Park near the Emma Sweeney train. talk about the history of Arbor Day. We have a Colorado State Forest Service supervisor that's coming to talk about Arbor Day to the girls, the Girl Scouts, and talk about trees and tree care in general with the Girl Scouts and their troop leaders. The Durango Garden Club has been so kind to donate the funds to pay for one of the Arbor Day trees. A few of their members will be in attendance as well. And if you have no plans Friday at 3:30, you're more than welcome to come and check it out. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. I need to get my pen. I just need this. No, you get to take that.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Now we're set for public participation. There's a sign-up sheet at the front if you plan to speak. This section of the agenda is set aside for the public to provide comments or ask questions regarding items that are not scheduled for a hearing or public testimony, or that do not otherwise appear on this agenda. City Council will not respond to questions from the dais. Citizens should address their comments directly to City Council. As this is a hybrid meeting, the avenues for public participation have been adjusted. All written comments received by the city clerk by noon today have been delivered to council and will be summarized in the meeting minutes. I'll also inform you that when you come to the microphone, or if you are allowed to speak virtually, you'll have 3 minutes. We'll have the time clock on the visual there on the screen, and I will try to raise my hand at about 30 seconds as a signal that you need to please wind down your comments. I appreciate that. And also, if I mispronounce your name, my apologies. I also have sometimes difficulty reading your handwriting, so thank you. The first person set to come to the microphone is Rick Cobb, please.
Hi, folks. Rick Cobb, Three Springs. I think I've spoken the last several meetings on the topic of the board reorganization. And initially, my reaction was based on how it was presented to the Parks and Rec Board, which I attend quite a bit as a public member. And I have commented that I want to separate the way it was presented and separate that from the content that was presented, because I think it was not handled well. Over time, I've been trying to educate myself more and more on the content of what the board reorganization is going to entail or contain. And that includes listening to the study session from a couple weeks ago. And Barbara was lucky enough to fill in for Kim as the liaison to the last Parks and Rec meeting. And I must say, as I learn more, I'm more encouraged by the possibilities. So I like the saying, intent is more important than technique. And so just having known Barbara and Kim and Melissa as well over time, you know, I feel like you guys have our best intentions at heart. So I'll be looking for avenues for public input. Melissa, I'll be interested to know when your office hours are going to be going forward. Because I think there will be avenues and I think more varied avenues than maybe there have. So we'll learn. And also thanks to Kim and Barbara for your service.
Thank you, Rick. The next person slated to speak is John Gamble.
Good evening. It's a great evening. We're in transition and I celebrate all of your service and I celebrate the incoming people. It's a good thing to keep this wonderful little town we live in. The main comment that I want to make tonight is about the issue of boards and commissions. Durango as a community has a long, oh, by the way, 20 years ago today, I was the mayor for part of the meeting. Durango has had a long tradition of public engagement. I think that's critical. Our citizens elected you. We all serve them. Now me, you serve us. And the issue of this process in the resolution, which apparently will be voted on tonight, has caused me great concern. I feel like that long tradition of community engagement and involvement is at risk. I feel, I understand that there has been little engagement on the current boards and commissions, and asking for commentary for those citizen servants who have brought forth their expertise. We're going to lose that. And we didn't even ask their advice about the reorganization. And I'm not aware of any meaningful public opportunity to participate in this rather revolutionary reshaping of our boards and commissions. So I will make a very serious request to you. We have two new incoming city councilors tonight. I would urge, and I think they need to have a hand in this decision and this process. And I would urge each of you to vote no on the resolution about the dissolution of boards and commissions. Let's take some time. Let's engage our citizen servant experts who've served on those boards and commissions, and let's do it right. I think this is a rush deal. The last thing I want to say is I also hope that the city council will proceed apace with its work with the Durango Fire Department, with discussions about property swaps. We need a new fire station. We need a new police station. We need a new city hall, and we have magnificent opportunity here. And I hope that goes forward as fast as possible. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Next on the list is Dick White.
Good evening, and thanks for this opportunity to speak. You know already that I am one of the 16 former mayors who have asked you to defer action on the dissolution of multiple boards and commissions. You also received my April 3rd email questioning whether the benefit of the current board and commission structure is not worth a fraction of a % of staff time and the budget for city operations. To support my final appeal for your no vote tonight, I will review comments from the minutes of the April 4th council meeting. Ms. Hyder expressed confidence that the change would not result in less public engagement. The minutes did not report the grounds for her confidence, and she did not address the quality of that engagement. Mr. Nykum said that the new board would welcome and encourage public participation at all its meetings. That is true of existing boards, but having a vote is much better than coming to a podium and saying, please. Ms. Hill said that the public participation would remain a cornerstone of the CIP budget process. However, public participation is not the same as the input provided by experienced members of multiple boards, many of whom have relevant professional expertise. Mr. Madrigal expressed confidence that the city staff would be able to handle the challenges of the transition period. But Councilor Bosmans didn't understand why the council was rushing to a decision when details remain to be worked out. Councilor Bosmans also stated that he supported creating some sort of financial advisory board, but thought there would be loss of community engagement and direct lines of communication from the boards and commissions to the council, as well as a loss of institutional knowledge. I could not concur more strongly. Finally, and most importantly, the council is acting to abolish several longstanding boards with proven track records of engaging public expertise in support of the city's mission. Although your far-reaching proposal has received much public comment, all or nearly all of it negative, you chose not to schedule a formal public hearing. To replace the public engagement lost in dismantling the boards, you now propose a new scheme that incorporates a laudable process, but one that you did not follow in developing the new structure. I urge you to stop the process now. Let the new council initiate the new expanded public engagement scheme, making its initial focus public engagement itself. If the process yields consensus that the new structure really is better for the city and its residents, then let the council implement it with full public confidence. Trust is one result of successful public engagement, but you do not have that now. Please vote no. Failing that, I appeal to the new city council to rescind the poorly justified initiative and do it right.
The next person on the list is Sweetie Marbury.
Good evening. I too am a former mayor, and I've lived in Durango almost 50 years, and I have served as a board liaison back in the 80s. And that gave me great training to understand how the process works with the city. Tonight, 4 women are dissolving boards and commissions without any board input or public input. 16 mayors have asked why. Many citizens have been at this podium asking why. What's the rush? The loss of institutional memory by the boards is unbelievable. By creating the Financial Advisory Board, the meeting will last forever because citizens will be there expressing their concerns about simple matters, maybe not controversial matters. Or they will come to City Council with their concerns because we have nowhere else to go. New councilors, I hope you are listening to the public because there has been no one here to say this is a great idea. We are very concerned about the loss of public engagement. If this was a concern in 2019 or 2021 or 2022, Mayor Noseworthy, when were those meetings? When was the boards apprised of the changes? The boards seem to be in shock about the extreme change. City manager, you will need people on board when and if the police department finds a home and the funding for that home. Without public participation and the trust of the public, these projects are in question. Trust is the most important thing the public can give to the city council. There's 4 women up there who are going to dissolve that trust. I urge the vote to be no. I urge the 4 women to let the next city council explore the decisions that would change Durango forever. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list, we have Christina Rinderly.
Thank you all for your time this evening and for your service. I am also a former mayor of Durango and past president of the Colorado Municipal League. And I had the honor to go to several National League of Cities meetings across the nation and be very involved with the Colorado Municipal League over the years. And one of the things I was presented a plaque at one of the National League of Cities meetings, and it's a quote by Plato. It says, you know, our city is what it is because the citizens are who they are. And I think that speaks so highly to our community and our community engagement. And, you know, I served 8 years on our city council and 2 terms as mayor. And I really appreciated personally the expertise of our boards and commissions and what they brought to the community, and spent countless hours sharing a vast variety of expertise from, you know, their past, what they bring to the table and whatnot. So, you know, I personally relied a lot on that. I think for the credibility of our community, it was such a wonderful thing to have all these people volunteering their time and expertise for the community. And I think to dissolve those really is dismissive to so many people that that have given so much of their time and expertise to our community. And so we have, you know, I understand that there's a Engage Durango new initiative that's being presented, and that might be great also. But I really encourage this council to defer to the next council, because it's really going to be the next council that is going to be at a loss of that expertise that's going to be that has been presented. And it's been a longstanding tradition for our community. And I think it's very important for that next council to weigh in, because you know, they're the ones that are really going to be at that loss of the community expertise. And I think that's something for that council to decide. And so anyway, I urge you to defer to that and see how they weigh in on it. And again, I appreciate your service to the community. I just think it's, you know, invaluable to have as much community engagement as possible. And it doesn't just have to be that, you know, one method with, you know, just Engage Durango, but we have this great tradition with that. And I've participated with so many events over the years, and appreciation events for those serving on boards and commissions. And many of you have attended those at our library over the years, and to see the pride of those community members that are serving on those boards and commissions and what expertise they can bring to that table, you know, really shows me the pride in our community. And so anyway, I urge you to see if you would please wait and let the new council weigh in so that we can really approach this in a comprehensive way. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Lee Meggs, please come up.
Thank you for giving us this time this evening to make some comments about the boards and commissions decision that you all are considering tonight. Tonight, this resolution is on the agenda to terminate historical boards and commissions, historical ones that we all have kind of grown up with. I've been in the community for over 36 years, and it's unnerving to know that this can just happen like this. I want to say that be aware that should you vote for the resolution tonight, your vote will come across as the equivalent of passing a note under a door. You're not politely ringing the bell. You're not asking the public to invite you in. You're not sitting down in the living room or at the coffee table and having a conversation with us, the public. The note passed under the door addressed to the community says your voice is just not important at this time. We can do this without you. We can disengage you as the public voice from city council and from the city staff. We can disengage you, and then we'll figure out how we're going to one day have a matrix to invite you back in. That was the word I heard staff say at the last city council meeting, is that city staff was creating a matrix. This note passed under the door addressed to the members of the boards and commissions says, you're fired without notice. And the note to communities outside of Durango, unfortunately, is Durango is going to turn down another path. We're essentially going rogue, untethered to the organized voices of the public filtered through the boards and commissions. Many have said that there is enough money for boards and commissions, or there isn't enough money for boards and commissions. You know, we all kind of look at budgets differently, and some people value the public voice differently than others. Some people, you know, honestly, among you may believe that you have something better that's going to be cheaper. The part that gets to me, as many others are saying this evening, is that you are moving ahead without, if you vote tonight for this resolution, you are moving ahead without inviting public conversations with your constituents, and in particular with the boards and commission members. These are people with whom you have interacted as liaisons. The availability that you have made of yourself to the boards and commissions is a betrayal should you vote for this resolution. Your choices in this matter come across to me as hurtful and potentially damaging to the public trust. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person is Ellen Stein.
Good evening. The thing that occurred to me just recently, many of you may have seen my letters in the paper, in the Herald and the Telegraph, is that these are not your boards and commissions to dissolve. These are the people's whom you represent. That to date, you refuse to listen to your constituents, including 16 former mayors, asking you to slow down, evaluate, and seek feedback on this new strategy is shocking. It's really unconscionable. Why? You've not answered that question sufficiently, if at all. As this review, strategy, and dissolution was council initiated and staff executed with no public review of the final strategy and recommended dissolution of 5 boards and commissions, you violate the will of the people. In 2005, 15, and 19, as I and thousands of other citizens voted on dedicated sales tax proposals, knowing associated advisory boards with members with relevant expertise would be stewarding these funds and advise on their use, never did I or others imagine that one day these boards would be replaced by a 7-member financial advisory board. If tonight you vote to dissolve these boards, you violate the will of the people who elected you to be good stewards of public resources. Though you say you are listening, you are not. Should you vote to dissolve these boards tonight, you reinforce just how disconnected you are from your constituents. Purporting to listen and be more inclusive, except to your predecessors and those in this room, and those who have spoken previously, written letters and made calls, including the chairs of both the Multimodal Advisory Board and Public and Parks and Rec Advisory Boards against this proposal. Tonight, I request you abandon this resolution and instead adopt one of your new strategies. Establish a working group to review the new community engagement strategy, which has merit. There is absolutely room for improvement to this process, but please do it seeking public input, and I'll be your first volunteer.
Thank you. The next on the list is Spencer Compton.
Hi, my name is Spencer Compton. I've been a resident since 2001, and I've served on the Multimodal Advisory Board since 2014, and I've served as chair and co-chair, as well as the representative for cycling. I'm asking tonight that you, the current city council, to vote against dissolving the multimodal, the Parks and Recreation, Natural Lands Preservation, and Infrastructure Advisory Boards. You can vote no tonight and simply leave it to the next city council if they choose to go in that direction. You created the Financial Advisory Board, and I think you should just say, great, leave it at that, call it a victory. The board will be helpful to the city council. It will provide more community involvement. And as a longtime member of the Multimodal Advisory Board, having a separate board to advise city council on allocating money would be beneficial to us, because it would allow the Multimodal Advisory Board to focus less on the financial issues and more on what city council can do to improve our multimodal network. You can have representation from each of the existing boards on the Financial Advisory Board. A 7-person advisory board could focus on the economic issues, concerning capital improvement projects. All that all makes sense to me. And I hope that something along those lines is considered. And I'll leave it at that. I hope you vote against dissolving the boards tonight. Allow more time for the public to understand the problems and issues and goals of restructuring the boards, and to have a proper forum to voice the concerns about the plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next on the list is Dean Brookie. And Dean, as you're coming up, if anyone came late and still wanted to speak, you're welcome to sign up on the sheet. And if not, well, then after you're finished, Dean, we'll go over to virtual. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'd like to say just simply, don't do it. You don't have to do this tonight. And I tend to agree as a former mayor, 8 years on city council, sitting in the seats that you're sitting in various capacities, mayor twice. This is premature. I mean, what has happened in the past 2 years since the night that I gave up the podium that has caused such a rift between city council and the boards that have created boards that are so problematic they need to be dissolved? What happened in the past 2 years on your watch that created that series of events? I'd like to, back in the day where Gilda Yazzie was appointed to be on a city board. Now she's, the highest vote getter for city council, and will be replacing you shortly. Put this off. Continuance or denial tonight will allow the new board that deserves to make the decision for the next few years of Durango's future, not you. Don't blow up the ship and walk away tonight. Don't do that. I mean, that would show so I'd like to take, if you do that, take this opportunity to really thank all those people over the years, myself included, over a 40-year period, served on these boards and commissions and was elected and served my time. And I'm here to tell you, this is a bad idea for public engagement. Let people grow up beyond these boards and commissions. Your alternative is to do a working group. Every time you got a problem, that bright, new, shiny, whatever problem in our community gets a working group. That didn't happen when the river turned orange in this community, and I had 20,000 people wanting to know what was happening with their water and we had the press landed in our community. We had a disaster, and I fortunately had the resources of the Parks and Rec Board, citizens working in our community, and the Natural Lands Advisory Board to help me, with all the things that had to happen in that period of emergency services. We didn't have time to set up a working group. The county did. They set it up and they were like 3 weeks trying to figure out what to do about it. We had people on the ground the next day when Senator Hickenlooper, now then Governor Hickenlooper, came down here. I had resources that I could talk about on behalf of the city of Durango, because we had boards and commissions, people that knew what was going on that day. And so, you don't just put it off. Think about it very, very hard. This is a huge decision. This is not how CML would say how to run a town, as Christina indicated before. I've had the opportunity to work with a number of communities. They all have boards and commissions. You don't have to do this. And so in that, I'd like to thank those folks that have served on boards and commissions if they never get to in the future and have to wait for a working group to formulate, because it's just an immense amount of hubris that 4 people might overturn years and years of historic public engagement in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Virtual there's no one else on that list, right? I don't see any name on that list. Okay. Has anyone, I'm going to ask the host, has anyone raised their hand virtually to speak?
No, Mayor, no one has indicated that they would like to speak.
All right. Thank you. On that note, we will move to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is intended to allow the city council by a single motion to approve matters that are considered routine or non-controversial. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member requests an item be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Items removed from the consent agenda will be considered under agenda item 9. Can we have a reading of the consent agenda, please?
Yes. Items 7.1 through 7.4 are approval of minutes items, and 7.1 is for the city council study session on March 21st, 2023. 7.2 is from the city council special meeting on March 28th, 2023. 7.3 is from the city council study session from April 4th, 2023. 7.4 are minutes from the city council regular meeting on April 4th, 2023. Item 7.5 is discussion and possible action concerning council approval of a professional services agreement with Housing Solutions of the Southwest relative to administration of the city's housing program and rent restrictions. Item 7.6 is request for a public hearing and acceptance of an annexation petition regarding the Elk Grove annexation, initial zoning and conceptual plan development at 455 and 589 High Llama Lane, and that public hearing scheduled for June 6, 2023. And then lastly, item 7.7 is final reading of ordinance O 2023 number 9, authorizing the execution and delivery of a lease purchase agreement and other documents related thereto in connection to the completion of energy performance improvements for the City of Durango facilities.
Thank you. Does any counselor wish to remove an item from the consent agenda?
I would like to remove items 7.5 and 7.7.
Does anyone have anything else to?
I was also going to ask to remove 7.5.
7.5, okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda minus 7.5 and 7.7?
So moved.
Any discussion on the consent agenda? May we have the vote, please?
Counselor Bosman's,
Yes.
Counselor Baxter,
Yes.
Counselor Buell,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Youssef.
Yes.
And Mayor Noseworthy.
Yes, thank you. 7.5. Would you like to, both of you have requested that it be removed. Counselor Bosman's, would you go first, please?
Yes, thank you. I'm not sure if there's someone to answer questions.
Eva Henson, our Housing Innovation Program Manager.
Hi, Eva. So first, I would like to say I'm glad to see we're moving forward with this these 14 deed restricted rental units and the management thereof. I have a couple of very specific questions. The three, at least the 3-bedroom units go for 80% AMI tenants. What do you remember the order of magnitude of 80% AMI? Ballpark.
Let me make sure I understand the question. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Eva Henson, Housing Innovation Manager. So in particular, you're asking the difference, I think, between possibly market rate and then adjusting that to reflect a reduced rate, which we call rental restrictive, and you're targeting what is that for an 80% AMI unit? And I think you mentioned for a 3-bedroom.
Yeah, I think 8 is a fixed number, of income level, or am I missing that?
Yes.
So
Yes.
if you have it on top of your head, great. If not, it's also fine. And I was going to, what is the deed restricted rent rate versus the market rate for the rent?
I'd have to pull the current Colorado Housing Finance and Authority table. I didn't bring that this evening. If I could follow up with you with that answer, I'd be happy to. It actually breaks it down by unit type, as well as the area median income categories, which is really helpful. It's a helpful resource tool. And so you could look at that ranges for a studio to a 1-bedroom to a 2 and a 3, and it would take it across the table for an 80% AMI or 100% AMI, et cetera. So I'd be happy to follow up on that if I could.
Yeah, that would be probably beneficial, but where I'm really leading to is the contract, because the contract cost for the management of these 14 rent restricted units from April 30th to December 31st, so 8 months, the cost is $22,500, which translates to $1,600 a unit a year. And if you do that by month, it's $200 a month per unit. And I was just wondering, how did you come up, how does that number get
organized, the 22,500, because it's still $200 on rent. That's an investment. If we do that for every rental unit, you can almost say, let's give them a voucher versus do the deed restricted process. So
Let's see
how,
if I
the
can-
question really is, how did that number,
Sure.
how did you derive that number 22,500?
There's a few things that went into the number. I think the focused, concentrated effort at the time was to look at the current project for the Gage Apartments that's being developed at 1275 Escalante Drive. But this is for a long-term plan and administration of rental restricted units that's not just for this year, though the contracted services of the 22,500 is. We envision adding more inventory that will take work to figure out processes, not only leasing up units, but also working and navigating for newer units through this year. So I understand the breakdown that you're asking for just focusing on those 14 rental units and why are we just focused on that amount? But I think there's a little more to it than just that 14 unit number and dividing it by the professional services agreement amount.
Okay, I bring it up because I do the calculation. I think it's very good that we have that management process started. I will follow up at a certain point when the next ones come along to make sure it makes sense. Yeah, and the numbers I just run is just to show you that, you know, if we spend that money to manage it, we should always evaluate, are we doing the right thing? But I'm glad we're moving forward with this. That's
Sure.
all I wanted to ask
Sure.
and share.
Yeah, and I would be happy to follow up on that because I think if I could provide the calculations based on the Chaffa AMI chart a little bit, and then we could do a deeper dive into the contractual agreement and the dollar amount, I can start to show the community benefit of what the administrative services that Housing Solutions of the Southwest will be providing on the long term. We can't do this in-house currently within the division. So this is a partnership to expand our housing programs. And so I think if we can, I can do that for you, it might help explain and answer your question.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Counselor Baxter.
So even my understanding was that not only the Gage Apartments would be administered this way, but also the Animas River Overlook units. Would they also be part of
So
this?
the Animas City Park Overlook units are ownership, and we have a professional services agreement with Homes Fund to help do an income qualifications for that. Homes Fund doesn't specialize in inventory for rental restriction units and doing income qualifications as well as leasing and doing rental rate adjustments per the Chaffa chart. And so we're navigating a new partnership for the rental restriction inventory that we're adding.
So then this would also apply to the Best Western, the 140 units that'll be coming online?
Potentially, but the Best Western actually is a more of a unique scenario because TWG developers actually develop, design, and property manage their properties. So I don't envision Housing Solutions necessarily being a huge component, but certainly a partner as we navigate that project as well.
So what I think I'm hearing is that as we're expanding the rental units being provided in the community, Housing Solutions would take on those additional requirements in order to manage them?
Yes, correct. And over the long term, we also have enforcement, compliancy, annual monitoring that occurs that we'll be partnering with them as well to do that as well. So the Housing Innovation Division is getting those developments secured, and then they will be taking over most of the administration to get those units leased up as well as renewal for leasing too.
Thank you.
Is there a motion on item 7.5?
I can make a motion to approve item 7.5.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? May we have the vote, please?
Counselor Buell.
Yes.
Counselor Bosman's.
Yes.
Counselor Baxter.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Youssef.
Yes.
And Mayor Noseworthy.
Yes, thank you. Now on to item 7.7.
Thank you. This is the ordinance to execute and delivery of a lease purchase agreement for the energy performance contract for City of Durango facilities. This project is, and I sent an email so everybody knows a couple of days in advance with specific questions or numbers so that it's clear that there's no confusion from councilors or because 2 weeks ago we had the same discussion and I think it got a little bit off track. So we have a $7 million project, energy performance contract that involves solar panels, HVAC, water conservation, electricity reduction. Of that project, I had asked you to provide the direct construction cost. Were you able to confirm that, Marty, or is that something that?
So based on discussions with City Manager Madrigal, without a agreed upon definition of construction costs, we can't provide a number because that costs are provided in two different ways in the contract. So in Schedule B, scope of work, costs are broken down by project type. In Schedule F, they are broken down by what you may call construction phase, and also by project category, I guess. And unless council is able to have a discussion on what would or wouldn't be included in construction costs, I don't feel comfortable providing a number.
Okay, I'm going to answer the question then, and councilors can question me and I can provide the detail on that. The total direct construction cost in the 2020 report was clearly defined in categories. There's about 15 line items. I had asked to provide that same breakdown because the new update did not provide those categories. Just put the same numbers that were falling under the total direct construction cost in one total. I did that proactively because I assumed that it might not be a clear answer. The total direct construction cost in that case is $3.364 million. So that means that with the total cost for the energy performance contract of 7 million, the total direct construction cost of 3.36, the consultant doubles the cost for items such as pre-construction management, engineering, design, supervision, profit margin, measuring and verification. And that is a significant over 100% increase in cost. And this all excludes contingency and grants. And the example that we discussed 2 weeks ago during the city council meeting, which was the HVAC system for the Carnegie building, which was priced by a plumbing company at around $750,000. It shows up in the energy performance contract as a cost of $1.6 million that the city would pay the consultant. The second question, so this is the first question I had. The second question, of this total cost of the energy performance contract of $7 million, it includes buildings with an uncertain future, such as Carnegie building and City Hall. And I'd asked what part of that 7 million are costs associated with Carnegie and City Hall. Were you able to look into that answer?
Yes. I think to answer, you finished up with a statement and then asked that question. To follow up on your statement, again, I would leave it up to council to discuss what is relevant to a construction cost or not. So for instance, design engineering is required for a solar installation. You can't just buy solar panels and install them without certified engineering plans. So that would be considered a design engineering cost, and it would be up to council to decide what that breakdown is in the definition of construction costs. Related to the costs, the pre-grant, pre-solar incentive costs associated with Carnegie, City Hall, and you had asked about the 911 communication center. I'm not familiar with future plans for that, but I included that because that was in your email request. It's about 1.9 million, roughly. And so, yeah.
I know that the communications building was only 47 in the first 47,000 or so in the first email you sent.
Yeah.
So let's say it's 1.8 million. If so, what we're doing is this agenda item, consent agenda item for a lease purchase agreement that includes financing, a large part of the 7 million energy performance contract. Even though the 7 million energy performance contract has 1.8-ish million of allocation of projects that very likely, I'm going to say, are not going to take place depending on the future of Carnegie Building and City Hall. So that is my second point. So, and the third question I have is, even if we finance this and we take the lease purchase agreement plus the money that we pay into it, plus the dollar grants, etc., the total cost with financing is about 9.1 million. And this was confirmed by you 2 weeks ago during the meeting. And of course, we have to add to that this loan setup staff and the next 20 years of financial commitments and transfers and discussions. And I had asked in the email what the total fund balance is across the board, including restricted and so on. Is that something that someone is willing to answer so for the record, or shall I can give the number and someone can.
Couple clarifications, but I'll let you go through that. You did ask, and I did point you to the presentation that was done on April 4th, our last council meeting, that had all of our fund balances in the presentation that we made to the public, and that's where I did direct you towards.
Okay. I will give the answer because I looked at that table. We have currently, based on that reference of an agenda package, we have $97.387 million in total fund balance. And yes, there is a big chunk that is restricted and allocated, etc. And that is the fund balance at end of last year or so, beginning of this year. And the water combined fund for the capital projects and the water fund has 16.9 million in total fund balance. So it seems that we can easily finance the energy performance contract directly without a lease purchase agreement. And not only that, council recently transferred, I think, 3.2 million to from the opportunity fund to housing. And I'm not sure if there's any specific projects that immediately need that money. And there's multiple funds that have high fund balances. And the funds that we have under that 97 million have a return that is well below what a loan finance cost would be, which is a 4%, assuming in this energy performance lease with a, what is it called, the lease purchase agreement. So we're losing money, even though we have money sitting in the bank. And that is not accounting for the fact that the actual energy performance contract is less than 7 million if we exclude those buildings that have an uncertain future. And if we would have a more realistic increase in cost to address on top of the direct construction cost, the cost for engineering and design and what needs to be done. So I personally cannot support that lease purchase agreement nor the energy performance contract, but that's not part of this agenda item. I think we as a council should really consider directing staff to not only assess the financial resources available if we want to go forward, but also assess or at least get multiple bids for a consultant or multiple consultants to manage the actual total direct construction costs, so the projects that are quoted by contractors. Because it seems we are getting a loan for an amount that is way higher than expected. I'm not sure if council has questions.
If I may just clarify a couple things, just to make sure that's it, not to get into a debate, but just a little bit more clarification on some of the numbers that you have listed. I think that when you look at the buildings, City Hall was only 55,000, comms and 911 was
Roughly 50 as well.
50,000. So 93% of that 1.9 is the Carnegie Building. which has its own special provision. Because we do not know what that's going to be, that does not mean it goes forward immediately. And at this time, we are actually having conversations with 9R. If that is a building that we end up swapping, to discuss the plans that are proposed for that building, to see if that is something that they would be interested in us doing. And if so, finding in part of that swap a part to reimburse some of those costs for the Carnegie building. So of that 1.9, 93% is not going to go forward until we have a better recollection. And that's actually carved out specifically, as you stated. And then on the fund balance number, I do believe the numbers that you're using on fund balance isn't the combined end fund balance after the budget amendment that was approved by the council on April 4th, which would significantly reduce the fund balance number that you had quoted.
What is the number?
I'm going to make a point of order, if I may, and I may actually look to the interim city attorney if necessary. I believe there's a point within Robert's Rules of Order that indicate that a member of the body may speak for 10 minutes on a subject that's asking a question and having the answer. And I know that the conversation has exceeded that 10-minute level. So in the interest of making certain that every council has an opportunity to have their questions raised, I'm going to ask other councilors if they have any point to make.
May I make a point of order?
We've just made a point of order, and I'm going to look for.
I would like to have the attorney respond to that.
Sure.
Because the Roberts rules, in my opinion, do not specify 10 minutes. Do they?
10-minute periods, yes.
If you've got the answer, sorry, if you've got the answer, Councilmember Buell, you're ahead of me, because I wasn't anticipating that particular question.
Each councilor has 2 10-minute sessions to speak. You have to stop after one 10-minute session and let everyone else go, and then you can have another.
If that's part of your normal procedures, I mean, I think your procedures require you to allow every member to speak in order before someone goes back to, if there's a desire of other council members to speak. I can't speak to the 10-minute limit. Just gonna flat out tell you, I don't know the answer to that one.
I'm done anyway, so.
Okay, can I real quick? Okay, so a couple things real quick. It's important that the way things are said can often skew a community's viewpoint on a project. And I'm so excited about this project because it's really going to move the needle on our sustainability goals and our sustainability plan. And I'm super excited. So some of the numbers that Councilor Bosman threw out about all the $3 million in construction costs and the other money going straight to McKinstry. It includes designing and engineering. I worked for Oakland Construction for 7 years, and I was lucky enough to work on some huge solar projects. I was lucky enough to build a library and like just some other great projects. Almost every project I worked on, I went through and like was looking at some of quotes, which was obviously a little while ago, but engineering design is about 7 to 15% of all projects that we ever built. That is a range between $490,000 to $1.2 million on this project, and their design and engineering quote is less than that. For pre-con services, you're looking at roughly 8 to 12% usually, and that includes scheduling, scope, budgeting, things that we don't have the staff. I don't know, Marty, do you have an extensive staff I don't know about? Okay, just wondering. Things that we don't have the staff to do. And again, their pre-con services of a little over $300,000 are way less than those numbers. And so while we can sit here and say, oh, we're wasting money on, I don't know the terms that he's using, but we're not. We're paying for things that are going to have to be done regardless, even if we hired another firm to do it, or if we, piecemeal this out. So it took us 10 years to finish it. We can get this done effectively and efficiently. And I'm super excited. And thank you for all your hard work on this project. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilor Buell. Would anyone else like to raise a question of Marty or make a comment on this topic?
Thank you very much for your experience and for putting that out there, because that's also been my experience, is that we're actually doing this very effectively and efficiently, as well as getting it done when we need to get it done. And I think it's really unfortunate that after
5 study sessions and 2 city council meetings, that there's still misunderstandings on the part of some counselors. So thank you.
Marty, I don't have any questions. You've answered all of them multiple times and that you're consistent in your answering. So I appreciate that. But I do want to just thank you for being here and being available for this topic once again. Now, is there a second question, Councillor Bosman's?
No.
And can I add one piece to
Please,
the
go
notice
ahead.
proceed to
Please.
proceed on Carnegie, because I think that is an important point that Councillor Bosman's and other councillors and city manager Madrigal have brought up. The future of Carnegie and the relationship and negotiations with 9R are public at this point, and it is certainly not settled. And just for that point of clarification, the EPC contract has a separate notice to proceed with the Carnegie building. If that extends beyond a certain period, we may have to get updated pricing from the subcontractors. You can't hold fixed pricing for an infinite amount of time. That just is not possible for construction projects. Also, at this time, I can say that the lowest apparent bidder for the lease purchase bid is the Bank of America, and it is at that 4% rate. And discussions with Bank of America, they are open to the fact that the lease could either be in the $5.6 million range or the $4 million range. So we're really fortunate to have a lessor that is willing to finance 2 pretty different scope sizes of a project and be willing to work with us, and understanding that a portion of this project is under a separate notice to proceed. So when making that financing decision, I think that's really important to know that that our financing also has that flexibility around Carnegie, and hopefully that addresses some of Councillor Bosman's concerns on that.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance O's 2023-0009, authorizing the execution and delivery of a lease purchase agreement and other documents related thereto in connection to the completion of energy performance improvements for the city of Durango facilities.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I will vote no against this, and I'll explain why. First of all, a lot of discussion is on the energy performance contract, so I'll start with that. If I was a plumber working for, let's say, GARS, who quotes a project for $750,000, and I would see that my project is going to be paid for by my taxpayers' money to the city for that project to $1.6 million, I would not be a happy camper. If I am an electrician working in the city of Durango and I have to change light fixtures and I bid a project for a building at $50,000 or $10,000, and I end up paying as a taxpayer to the city that goes to the consultant double that amount, I would not be a happy camper. If I would be a city employee and I see that we're spending, I think it was $340,000 on an energy program to educate people, I think that is $1,000 almost a person. I would say, give me a check and I'll turn the light off every time I walk out the door or even close my eyes. And me individually as a taxpayer, I think it is, I disagree that if a project costs 100%, you do not double the money for the engineering. That is unheard of in my experience as an engineer, the Dutch engineer, before someone says it's not a perfect professional engineer in Colorado. But this is about the lease purchase agreement, this agenda item. And even there, I have not heard much about this, but the lease purchase agreement is about financing a total project of $7 million for a cost. The part of financing is, I think, 5.4, bringing the total cost of the whole project up to 9 million. We have the money available. There is no need to do this through a lease purchase agreement. We have rules in place in our charter that require citizen engagement. If it's financed through a bond, we bypass it. We're calling it a lease purchase agreement, but it still puts our community and future councillors on the hook for lease payments for the next 20 years. So I will vote no against this.
I would like to make a point of information. We do not have $8 million or $9 million available for this project. If I remember correctly, and I'll look to the city manager, I believe we have less than 9 million available. That's not required for other things for our 25, for our Tabor requirements, and not restricted to other projects or for other purposes. And we talked about this last time you were here, Marty, and you said if the money were available, you would be looking. So I want to make the point of information that unless Councillor Bosman's has information that the rest of council doesn't have, we do not have that money available for this purpose.
And if I may, I can provide a breakdown of, there's been discussion about enterprise funds and upfront costs and what is being leased and what isn't. And the lease is only on lighting, solar, and HVAC, which is commonly accepted industry practice. Bank of America, a national institution, is willing to accept a lease on this equipment. So it is a recognized approach. And outside counsel has pointed to Article 5, Section 25 of the Charter in terms of council's authority to enter into long-term lease agreements via ordinance.
Thank you. Does any other councillor have anything to say during this discussion period? Otherwise, I will call the vote. Please call the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Youssef,
Yes.
Counselor Baxter,
Yes.
Counselor Bosman's,
Nope.
Counselor Buell,
Yes.
and Mayor Noseworthy.
Yes, and congratulations to all your hard, and thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you all.
Next on the agenda is the discussion and possible action regarding the boards and commissions. And Aaron, let me just check here. Are you all presenting? Yes.
3 of us are.
Okay. Allison is not? You're in the background. Okay, I didn't see you up there. And you were there the last time we presented on this, so I wasn't clear.
Would you like me to wait for? Yeah, okay.
For those of you in the audience, we have a baby in the house.
I thought we might be babysitting. I was like, yeah, let's babysit this.
Good thing she's here because I have no other comedic material for the intermission.
No. All right, thank you.
Sorry. Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. Erin Heider, Assistant City Manager. I want to give a quick introduction before we launch into this agenda item tonight. As mentioned before, this truly has been an all hands project. And I'd like to start by thanking all of the staff that have worked on this project that has been challenging at times. And so thank you to all of you that have been a part of this as we've really worked through this as a team. I have no doubt that as we further develop, transition, and implement the Financial Advisory Board and the overall community engagement strategy, there will be continued support, adaptability, and input from staff as we meet council's project goals. After the establishment of the Financial Advisory Board at the last council meeting, council requested staff to draft a resolution dissolving the applicable advisory boards with a later effective date, allowing for in transition and outlining a transition plan aligning with that effective date. Tonight, Terry Nykum and Sarah Hill will be presenting on behalf of our cross-functional team with the requested items for discussion. One, a transition plan that focuses on 4 main areas: the establishment and launch of the Financial Advisory Board, the existing advisory board's transition, the 2024 hybrid CIP process, and the continuation of the community engagement strategy framework. In addition, a resolution has been prepared with a July 31st, 2023 effective date for consideration and discussion. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Terry Nykum.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Terry Nykum. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director. And I'm going to jump right into the Financial Advisory Board establishment and launch. First off, just to kind of recap from our April 4th meeting, the Financial Advisory Board is really designed to be community-based, cross-functional, and quite honestly, cross-departmental. It will have the defined responsibility to serve as an advisory board to City Council to review and then provide funding recommendations on all city CIPs. This will also be done through the annual CIP plan development process and in coordination with the annual budget development. This year, however, will be a bit modified as the Financial Advisory Board and the existing boards are both still in existence and both active. And Sarah will kind of explain that process a little bit later on. Just also want to have a point of clarification that the Financial Advisory Board will not provide recommendations on the library or the airport, as they are joint ventures with other partner agencies. Lastly, the Financial Advisory Board will provide or have a responsibility to include and review recommendations on other financial issues as requested, such things as the water rate study. So kind of diving into the month-by-month plan. In April, we're already starting that. The recruitment for Financial Advisory Board members began already in early April, and applications will be accepted through the end of the month. In May, it's recommended that City Council in teams of 2 interview board members for boards and commissions, open seats, and this includes the Financial Advisory Board. It is also recommended that council seek the advice of current chair and vice chairs of boards and commissions for input and maybe even participation in the selection process. Moving to June, the first part of June, when council has selected and notified board members for their participation on the Financial Advisory Board, staff from Finance, Public Works, Transportation, Parks and Recreation will set up a meeting for the newly appointed board members, which will be essentially an orientation. At this orientation, we plan to give a presentation on the community engagement process to date, of which the FAB is part of that community engagement process. We also intend to present and provide opportunities for discussion on current CIP plans and progress on projects that are ongoing. We will also review other long-term CIPs that are maybe not on our current 5-year plan, but are on a list for future projects. We also plan to introduce and discuss the various master plans that relate to CIPs, such as the Parks, Open Space, Trails, Recreation Master Plan. It was adopted in 2019 to give them a full breadth of what they're looking at in terms of capital improvement projects. At the end of June is when we have scheduled to have the first official FAB meeting. We will select a chair and vice chair at this meeting, start establishing board bylaws. And then staff will start bringing in members into further deeper discussions of the CIP plan development for 2024. And then by July, we hope to be off and running and continuing the CIP development process for 2024. Moving on to existing boards and the transition of those boards. Tonight, as you heard, council is being presented with a resolution to repeal 5 boards. This is the Infrastructure Advisory, Multimodal, Natural Lands Preservation, Parks and Recreation, and the Strategic and Long-Term Finance Advisory Boards. However, these boards members are being asked to continue serving until July 31st to help with that transition plan. In April, which which is now. We'll be going out to several of the boards and commissions and sharing and discussing the city's direction on the community engagement and the creation of the Financial Advisory Board. This has actually already been done with the Infrastructure Advisory Board, I believe, last night. And then last week with the Natural Lands and Preservation or Parks and Rec Advisory Boards. And then I think tomorrow night is multimodal, yes. In May, staff will work with those boards to identify, list, and document any past and current issues and initiatives needing further work and what community engagement tools could be employed to continue that discussion. These will be initiatives that need continual discussion that would be going past the July 31st end date for these boards. In June, we plan to reshare and discuss and confirm those issues with the board members from finance on the Finance Advisory Board. And just to kind of give you a little bit of what I've done in Parks and Recreation, we provided the Parks and Recreation Board a list of all of the agenda topics that were at each board member or each board meeting from January 2022 to March of 2023, just so that they would have an understanding of everything that they've talked about recently. And then in July, we hope to wrap up with any last items and then recognize board members at that July meeting. So that's the Financial Advisory Board and then also the existing boards and how that transition would work. I'm going to turn it over to Sarah, who's going to talk about the other two topics.
Thank you, Sarah Hill, Transportation Director, and I'm the staff liaison to the Multimodal Advisory Board. So in light of council's direction to develop a transition plan between our current structure and the development of the Financial Advisory Board, staff's recommendation is that this year's CIP budgeting process be a hybrid approach with the goal of transitioning historic knowledge, enhancing public engagement, and arriving at a CIP budget recommendation in August. This plan provides an opportunity for current advisory board members to pass on the knowledge of CIP history and their priorities to the Financial Advisory Board. In April and May, staff will work with current boards to rank their CIP priorities under the current existing structure. June, a CIP plan and budget based on the individual advisory board's priorities will be presented jointly to FAB and current advisory boards as part of FAB's orientation. And then under the FAB proposal, FAB hosts an annual public CIP priority forum each year. This year, staff will help kick that off in June to provide a meaningful opportunity for the community to weigh in on the CIP budget directly to the newly formed Citizen Advisory Board. And then in July, staff will make CIP budget presentations to the boards at their final meetings. This will give the boards the opportunity to make final comments on the CIP and transition the CIP responsibility to FAB. FAB will meet in August to make their CIP budget recommendations to City Council after having the opportunity to discuss priorities and history with the existing board, hear from the community in the CIP priority forum, and review staff's budget recommendation. So to begin implementation of the enhanced community engagement strategy, we recommend establishing an internal community engagement cross-functional team, or CFT, to help guide the process. This CFT will be comprised of representatives from departments with CIP implications, including transportation, public works, and parks and recreation, in addition to community and media engagement staff, community development staff, and a representative from the city manager's office. This CFT, will develop a process that describes what triggers the formation of working groups and the more granular operational details of working groups, such as how the volunteers are selected to participate, if certain qualifications will be required, how timeframes are determined for service, and so on. This June, staff will host the first Engage Durango Forum. This is in addition to the CIP Priority Forum, which is an annual function of FAB. And then in July, the Community Engagement CFT will present a comprehensive update on the community engagement strategy and working group details to council. So to accomplish this, here's the motion that's been requested by City Council.
Thank you. I will open it up for questions from council of the presenters, including also Scott Shine and Allison as well. Aaron, I will start with, would you kindly take us through the, from last year when council at the retreat made this request? Can you kind of take us through the timeline, please?
A quick timeline, sure thing. So at last year's council retreat, that was in February 2022, that is where we received direction to start the process. If we were going to start from scratch, what would it look like? February 22. In July 22, staff brought forward and held an initial conversation with council with some initial kind of conceptual thoughts and to get more direction and feedback as to what council was envisioning. October, and including at July 22 also, I should point out that council also directed staff to reach out to the applicable advisory boards to start to socialize the idea and to get some initial feedback around that. In October 2022, staff presented a variety of alternatives for council consideration. With that, we received further direction and that helped us really finalize a final proposal that was presented to council in February of 2023, including the initial discussion around how this project really has spurred an opportunity for enhanced community engagement. That would be the quick, brief timeline of such.
City Manager, did you have anything to add? I couldn't tell if you were, okay, all right. Thank you. Other questions or comments?
Thank you. I'll ask a question. I have more comments whenever whoever makes a motion, but I looked at the schedule and so we're in April now, and then in May we have meetings, and in June we finalize or discuss the list of priorities, and in July we wrap up comments on the capital improvement plan. Is that's from your schedule? Is that realistic? First of all, because of I served as the liaison to the multimodal and the Parks and Rec. There's not a single time I've seen the whole priority discussion take place in one meeting, nor do I think, well, no, I'll ask your feedback if it's realistic to consider that being done in June, July, August, which is summer break for a lot of people.
And I'll call on Turi too, since he also has CIP implications. It is a truncated version from what we typically do in the CIP process. We usually get started in April. So we're prepared to kick that process off now jointly with the boards in light of this proposed transition. So, we will be working very diligently to meet these deadlines.
I'll add that in our current process, we have the opportunity to have subcommittee meetings with the chairs and vice chairs, which we can employ this year as well. So if we have some discussions that maybe we need to get aligned with the various boards, we can do that. So we didn't include that in the presentation, but that is an opportunity.
And could you also address the 5-year plan that you're working from? I mean, it's not as if you're reinventing your list.
Right. It wouldn't be starting from scratch. None of the boards are going to be seeing new information that they haven't seen before. We will be working from the 5-year CIP and multimodal, and the same with Parks and Rec and Natural Lands. So there will be, ongoing conversations and the opportunity for the current board members to have that conversation with the seated FAT members.
If you have any questions, or if not, I will ask, is there a motion?
I'll jump in real quick. How many boards and commissions are remaining after this resolution?
15.
15 boards and
15 to
commissions
24.
still remaining. Can you give us some examples of, and I know we've done this before and I'm kind of repeating it, but just in case there's new people here listening, some examples of some topics that maybe boards and commissions have talked about in the recent years that would be a great working group, and how you see that kind of happening?
Yeah. So one that comes off the top of my head, we are actually in the process of, we just got some funding approved to develop a natural lands or open space assessment, and then start talking about future needs for that program. That's definitely a working group in our mind where we would go out and solicit and get knowledgeable and experienced people in those areas to participate in that process and the development of that document and that planning document. Another one that comes off the top of my head might be the e-bike conversation, which I think will go probably past the July 31st ending timeline. So we would probably, in my mind, work with the current boards and commissions to come up with that community engagement strategy, which could probably most likely be a working group where we would again populate that working group and continue that conversation.
There's a couple things I just wanted to bring up, and it's not really a question. It's more of just me talking for a second. I think when this first got brought up by council, it was a need for more diverse and more engagement. We were getting such like the same groups of people and the same people engaging, which is great. And I like appreciate and love everyone's passion for our community. And I feel lucky enough to be really close with a variety of even people in the audience that I can call for advice if I have it. And I know that our new counselors have that same bond with a lot of people. And so when people keep coming up and saying that you're taking away our voice, you're taking away our voice, and I'm like, this was the whole point of this was for a more diverse voice. And I feel like the people that I've talked to personally, like Jasper and the people, Kathy Metz, I feel like Rick, you've talked to some people, like people that we've talked to personally kind of have a better understanding of like the route where our vision and where we're going. And Aaron, when you presented at the study session, you and Scott presented at the study session about Engage Durango, that was exactly what I was envisioning. And I can see it so much better and so much more engagement than we have. I look at the like what happened with like the fire department, for example, and buying 9R. And while I'm not saying that was our fault or we had a choice in who bought what or whatever, what happened there, like I see like Engage Durango being able to handle situations like that so much better than we're set up now, potentially. Anyone that has called me, and I've actually even offered to have coffee with a few people that talked and they didn't take me up on it. It's not like we're not listening. I've listened for, I don't know how many council meetings to people come up here, and I understand, but the vision and where we're going with this, it's bigger, and I feel like it's better and more diverse. I appreciate the transition plan because I do want to capture all that, but I also want to communicate, like, it's not like we're saying don't participate with us, where there's just different avenues to participate now. And it's just not on this one board and commission you've served on. It's through different ways. And so you have not only like office hours with the mayor pro tem, but now you have Engage Durango bi-monthly meetings where you can talk. It's not just 3 minutes where we can't respond to you. It's us sitting there with you and in a bi-monthly meeting and actually having a conversation about issues. It's working groups, it's the FAB board, and it's 15 other boards and commissions. So like this we're not listening. It's a bummer that it's coming across that way, and I'm sorry. But like this vision that we've been working on for a year, it's not rushed. I don't feel rushed about it at all. And I did love the transition plan because I know some boards and commissions didn't get like what I had with Salt Fab and what I had with the Creative Economy Commission. Has been months of like talking and working through what that would look like for us. And like the Creative Economy Commission, we know what working groups we need for the next 2 years. Like we know we're going to need this working group. These people want to serve on it. Tommy has their number, I'm sure, and can, and so I feel like the other boards and commissions we needed to do that with. And so I'm super glad we have this transition plan. So I appreciate that, but I don't feel rushed about it. So that's kind of my 2 cents. Sorry.
Great. I'm going to actually ask Alice, and I serve on the infrastructure. I was the liaison to the Infrastructure Advisory Board, and we also started talking about this some time ago, right after, probably in the early summer, right? I believe in June or July. So I would like an example of some of the working groups where you can see, and I'll share this with folks on the Infrastructure Advisory Board. We have very well experienced people with regard to water and sewer. In this case, let me say, they're responsible for streets and alleys for the 2019 tax. And by their own admission, they're saying that this is one we're piling a lot on and we don't have expertise in this matter. And then we've also asked stormwater management into that mix. So could you give a few examples, please? And again, we've been having this discussion, and I recognize that not every liaison may have communicated or in the same way. We don't necessarily have a rule book in that regard, but there is the expectation that we are sharing with, as the liaison, we are sharing the thinking that council is doing with those boards that we serve as the liaison to. Could you please provide some examples of the kind of working groups where you could pull in different expertise to help guide your thinking?
As you're aware, we did have an infrastructure advisory board meeting last night and discussed some of the transition planning, as well as what went into the original thinking of setting up the financial advisory board. And part of the discussion was how these talented and very often specialized individuals could continue to contribute, and working groups were one of the really logical choices. We talked about potentially a rate study advisory board. The Lake Night Horse pipeline would certainly justify an excellent working group setup. Moving away from utilities on the streets ends of things and multimodal-ish, some of our connected areas, sidewalk district, as opposed to some of the repair work that we've been financing, moving more into a program of selective replacement and working a little differently toward that. Again, having that kind of working group that brought together specialized experts and also encouraged more interaction from the community. We have, as you know, I think fascinating infrastructure advisory board meetings, but so often it's not something that the public attends every single meeting, and would like to think that moving toward working groups, that people would be inclined to participate more and be more involved if it's topics that are specific to their areas of interest, specialty knowledge, just, if it's in their neighborhood, that kind of thing. So I think there are multiple opportunities. We're starting to fund some alleyway reconstruction, and I think a working group could really help plan that out effectively, so that as we're doing it year by year and working toward a plan rather than just do a few here one time and a few the other. I really see them as a great resource to help look at comprehensive planning that we're doing and provide feedback. How does it impact the community in ways that, as engineers and construction and utilities folks, may not immediately see? Having the input from the community, I think, would be a huge asset. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Allison. We will, if there is a call for a motion and it is seconded, we will also have discussion time. So I will ask, is there a motion? I will make a motion. You're going to go ahead. Go ahead. No, please go ahead. I would. Yeah. Yeah.
It is resolution number 2023-20.
The motion, it will be condensed from what you've written, would be to adopt resolution 2023-20, repealing resolutions 2018-7, 2018-8, 2018-9, 2019-39, and 2019-40 as needed to dissolve the Multimodal Advisory Board, the Natural Lands Preservation Advisory Board, Infrastructure Advisory Board, the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, and the Strategic and Long-Term Finance Board to be effective July 31st, 2023.
I'll second.
I will open for discussion.
Yeah, I'll start. I will not repeat the many reasons that have been stated by our community why dissolving boards and commissions should not occur in this manner. I agree with most of them. The boards and commission reorganization and improvements has been discussed for several years, I guess. But the structure that we are looking at here was presented to council of February 7th of this year. So the extreme change was only known to council on February 7th of this year. So we're talking about 2 months for that erasing history. I am uncomfortable with the schedule if we are going this route. I'm equally concerned about what Dean Brookie mentioned as an example. If there's an urgent situation, we're going to lose some urgent response opportunity. This is on top of all the comments that our community has brought forward. I personally, as an active councillor, believe that dissolving these boards and commissions will negatively impact each councillor, in that I feel we lose a direct connection from our community via boards and commissions to councillors, and it will be more difficult, if not impossible, to be as well informed on topics that come to council. We have heard from our community, boards and commission members, and even a large number of former mayors. Thank you for all being present and sharing your experience and opinions. All of those overwhelmingly disagree with dissolving the relevant boards and commissions this way. I think that most believe there could be improvements with the approach of the current structure of the boards and commissions, but maybe not as is proposed here. So with all these people that we are supposed to represent as elected officials, basically we're doing not what they want. I will not support dissolving those boards and commissions in this manner, and I would prefer to involve the new councillors as well as the board and commission members to come up with a better approach. So I will vote no.
Melissa, I believe you had indicated you wanted to speak.
The easy thing to do right now would be to pull the plug on this new approach and keep doing things the way we've been doing them for years. It's what we know and it's what we're familiar with. But easy doesn't necessarily make it right. And it is not always the best move for the organization. We were elected to do several things. One of those is, yes, listen to our constituents. And that's what we have been doing. But the other thing is that we have to take all of the information that we receive, all of the inputs, and with that, make the best, most informed decision that we can make. That is what we are all trying to do here today. Most of us have spent hours on the phone with our constituents, many of you in this room. We've listened to the perspective and opinions of our constituents, friends, and colleagues. We've read your emails. We've listened to you in our city council meetings. All of that has been very productive and positive, with the exception of one text, literally calling us imbeciles and idiots, but that happens too. But I appreciated the positive and productive phone calls from our constituents and the opportunity to listen and also to convey my perspective. When you see redundancy, inefficiency, and far too many resources being expended to achieve the desired outcome for an organization, it makes sense to reevaluate. And that is what we asked our staff to do. We asked them to start with a clean slate, design a system that allows us to achieve our desired outcomes of a robust and diverse system of public input, funneling that up through the city council advisory boards to our council. And given what we know about our current system, without repeating it all here, since we've gone over it for many study sessions and city council meetings, it makes sense to me to adjust, pivot, and try something new. Government has a reputation for being stagnant organizations that move at glacial speeds. They have reputations for not keeping up with changes needed organizationally to run more efficiently and effectively. We are stepping out of that mold today. Through this process, know that we are committed to ensuring that we will create a system with robust and diverse public input. We are committed to being fluid, flexible, and willing to adjust and adapt along the way. We are well aware that we might not get it right the first time, but we will continue to revise and develop as needed. Change is hard. Deviating from what is familiar is scary. But in this case, I, as one counselor, believe that it is in the best interest of the organization and that is the best work that we can do, even if it is some of the most difficult work that we have to do at times. So I ask you to give us time. We will adjust, adapt, and change as needed along the way. But I believe that we are moving in a productive and positive direction organizationally. Thank you.
Thank you. Would any other counselor like to say anything during discussion? I will. Thank you. Rick, you had me close to tears when you recognized the well intentions. I believe that anyone who serves does so from trying to be well intended. So I appreciate your recognition and your efforts to really learn about the history and the process. And Councillor Youssef, my goodness, you said many things, but much more eloquently than I could have, but many things that I thought. Let me add that I see this very much as fulfilling part of our desire to be more inclusive and have more diverse opinion brought to us. I think it's very important, and I've said this at several of the advisory board meetings to which I was asked to be the liaison for since Councillor Baxter could not attend, she asked me to serve as the liaison at a meeting. And I believe it's important to have people with differing views involved as well, because I think differing views provide a more robust discussion and possibly even a more robust solution. I think that's important. I appreciate the work that staff has done. And we did task you with the bold, I believe that was the term, in your thinking, as we expect you to be bold in your thinking with everything you do. So I will be supporting this. I appreciate the effort. And Councillor Youssef, I applaud the commitment that you made of getting this, working to make, I don't have your exact quote, but working to bring this about in a proper, appropriate way. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem Youssef. I think that the big challenge here is change. And I think you pointed that out. We're not doing it the way it's always been done. We're trying to improve it and make it better, create more community engagement. I think the proposal that was made at the study sessions in the last 2 and 3 study sessions moved us in this direction. I think it's an ideal. I think it has the potential to actually create better community engagement than we have now. I've been on boards and commissions 2010 to 2017, then on the Planning Commission in 2018. I know how the boards work. I understand the benefits and the drawbacks to them. I've been the council liaison to boards and commissions for 4 years. And I think that staff did an excellent job in envisioning what we can do and be a model for other communities. I know this is difficult and I know it's hard for the people who are currently serving on the boards, but I encourage you to stay involved. It isn't a refutation of your contributions. It's actually an acknowledgement that we want more engagement, and there are other ways to do it. So that I just wanted to thank you. That was eloquent. And thank you very much too, Councilor Buell. I appreciate it. And Mayor Noseworthy. Thank you.
On that note, all council has spoken. We will call the vote.
Counselor Buell,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Youssef,
Yes.
Counselor Baxter,
Yes.
Counselor Bosman's,
No.
and Mayor Noseworthy.
Yes, thank you. Before we move on to the next item, which is the administration of, let me get this exactly right, the administrative procedures, I would like to allow a few comments from departing counselors. And I mentioned this to Counselor Baxter, and she said, you go first. And I said, well, I'm the mayor, I should go last. And so she said, we don't vote on this one. So I will honor your request, and I will say a few things. First of all, I'd like to say, Mayor Pro Tem Youssef, when you were elected mayor on my first term, and I want to thank you for the way you brought in the new counselors, and really as a new counselor, and I know you're in the room, and I know that you, if elected mayor, you will do the same thing again. So I really appreciated that effort. I also, I wanted to just say, Counselor Buell, I remember the first time we sat down and visited, you actually shared a view of a meeting and how you interpreted a conversation. And I had a very different view of what transpired, completely different. And what came out of that was a real commitment to working through that process and resolving, and we did. And I don't think anyone would ever have known had we not just talked about it openly.
We did not get along at first.
So I just wanted to acknowledge some specific things. And then also, Counselor Baxter, you know, we both ran on issues that were very similar. Housing, good paying jobs. We addressed the budget issues. I looked at sustainability and resilience from a kind of a climate perspective. And then I also looked at issues around the unhoused. And we agreed on many things, but not everything. And so but what I did find was that robust discussion of the analytical thinking around, well, what if you did it this way? And what if you did it that way? And we would often say that we come from opposite ends around a problem or an issue, but somehow find reaching somewhere in the middle is how we would do that. And finally, let me say to those that will be sworn in and to those that ran as well, thank you. I appreciate your efforts. My goal in stating that I only intended to serve one term was so that we could get a more diverse candidate pool, a more, and possibly even a more inclusive, building more inclusiveness into the community. And I was thrilled with the candidate pool that we had this year. And I am very much looking forward to seeing what you do and the challenges that you face and how you go about it. So I appreciate that as well. On that note, I'll turn it over to Counselor Baxter for the final word.
Well, hopefully it's not my final word. This has been a really interesting 4 years. It's been a wild ride, to be honest with you. There's been a lot of change and very significant change that has huge positive impacts for our community. We have a new city manager. who has incorporated a new way of thinking in our city organization. So we have continuous improvement. And we've got a photo session going on here soon, I guess. Continuous improvement, best practices. We have a foundation now of the way that the executive leadership team works together, the way the entire organization sees their employees, and the way that our employees see our community. And that is really, really key for me. That was one of my biggest things when I ran for city council, the comments that I got from our community about how they couldn't go talk to staff. They didn't get responses from staff. That has completely shifted. It's 180 degrees difference. Almost every day I get a comment about how easy it is to have a good conversation and to get to a win-win situation for both the community member as well as the city. And I think that shows huge progress. And I want to say thank you to City Manager Jose Madrigal. Thank you to all the staff and to all the employees, because we as counselors make policy. You implement it, and the success of that is through your implementation. I also want to say that we've had some I'm very excited about where we're going with housing. I know we're all feel the same way about it. It's our number one priority. It is our community's number one priority. I ran on a platform of a multi-generational, diverse community. And I'm going to add mixed income into that now that I know more, because you don't know everything the day you're elected, and you learn as you go on. And I have learned a lot. And to your point about good paying jobs, you can't have good paying jobs if you don't have businesses, and you can't have businesses if you don't have places for your employees to live. And I am very excited about the path that we're on with our housing division and how we're working with our community, with developers, with builders, with the people who live here, with the nonprofits to create housing units, whether they be ownership or rental. And this is crucial to the long-term success of our community. And I truly hope that Mr. Woodruff and Ms. Yazzie continue in that path in seeing how important having housing for our economy is and for the vitality of our community. I am so excited when we build things that bring that multi-generational and mixed income group of people together, rather than isolating one group in one place and another group in another place. This is a mix. This is a community. So we have our nurses, we have the people who blow the snow off of our roads. We have people who mow the lawns. We have our policemen. We have our managers. We have people who work in every aspect of our community. And we want them to live here. We don't want them to have to commute into our community. It's better for us environmentally. It's better for us in every way you can imagine. So I'm very excited about the direction that we're going. And I want to thank council for being so willing to make changes and to do things that are for the benefit of our community. It's inspiring. And I wish you the best of luck in the future. There really isn't much else for me to say except thank you very much.
Well, I'm not going to let you leave without some words myself, so I'm going to take a few more minutes because I want to thank our Mayor Noseworthy, and if I can say former Mayor Baxter now, it's great. I want to thank you for your commitment, your dedication, and your service to our community. I want to recognize that both of you served during some extremely difficult times. COVID, virtual meetings, Zoom for the first time with many of us, mask mandates, emergency ordinances. Stress, that was a stressful, difficult time to be in leadership. Followed that by leadership transition of literally all three of our city council appointees, or of our city staff appointees. Periods of times with gaps in leadership, significant amount of time and effort to hire a new city manager and a new city attorney. I was very thankful that you both were involved in those processes. You were diligent. You left no stone unturned. I was very happy to have you a part of those teams. Let's not forget the embezzlement. It feels like it was so long ago, but it wasn't. And that was such a difficult and harsh reality that we faced as a community, that we dealt with internally here in our organization. And the oversight that was required by council as a result of that was just phenomenal. And you both played a tremendous part in that with your attention to detail and highly scrutinizing of detail. Together, we completed our first ever strategic plan. I was very happy to have you guys as part of that team. When we helped identify our priorities and our areas of focus that was so important for the city. It's our foundation document. It lays out our plan of action. I really thank you for your hard work in that area. Your demonstrated commitment to housing, it goes without saying. You guys were both very instrumental in getting us a significant amount of funding dedicated to our Housing Innovation Fund. It's a start. We have a lot more work to do, but you were instrumental in getting us there. Significant strides at working productively with our community partners, especially the county. We had a joint meeting yesterday where we talked about our watershed, our wildfire watershed protection fund, the URA, which was developed while you guys were on council, County Road 250 and 251, some really great work in those areas and great progress on sustainability efforts. So I just wanted to thank you for your service, your time, your efforts, your attention to detail, your active participation at all levels in every conversation, your amazing attendance record, really pretty perfect attendance records. We did a lot together. We accomplished a lot. It wasn't always easy. It never is, but I want to thank you for your commitment and your service. And I hope that you enjoy some much deserved time off and vacation.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. I will take the last word though. Thank you. And I will thank the enormously talented staff that have worked so hard. And I will take such pride in having been a part of the selection process for Jose Madrigal. I felt that the three of us that worked on that, along with Dean Brookie and the late Chris Bettine, I think we were unanimous in that decision. And the process was all of us were very engaged in that process. And so I want to say about Jose, the thing when he was interviewing, I was retired, semi-retired, and I felt like, I've kind of had an okay career. And when I saw Jose and some of the way he handled things in his first 100 days, I said to a few people, I can learn from that man. And I have. And so I want to thank you, Jose, for your leadership and for the staff who have gotten to the point where they are customer-oriented, client-oriented, while still maintaining standards and the character of our community. Thank you. It was an honor to serve, and I wish the best for the incoming counselors. On that note, can we please have the administration?
Mayor and Council, Faye Harmer, City Clerk, and your designated election official for the 2023 election. First, we have to do a certification of the April 4th, 2023 election results. Pursuant to Durango City Charter and the Uniform Election Code, I will present for council approval the certification of the results of the regular municipal election held on April 4th, 2023. As the certification reflects, vote tallies are as follows. Gilda Yazzie received 2,748 votes. Dave Woodruff received 2,435 votes. Harrison Wendt received 2,431 votes. Carter Rogers received 592 votes. Douglas Snow received 253 votes. The canvass of votes verified that 13,593 ballots were distributed. Of that number, 4,675 were returned and counted, resulting in a 34.39% voter turnout. In 2021, we had a 40% voter turnout. In 2019, we had a 39% voter turnout. With that, the recommendation is that council by motion approve the April 4th, 2023 certification of election results.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Let's have this vote.
Counselor Baxter,
Yes.
Counselor Buell,
Yes.
Counselor Bosman's,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Youssef,
Yes.
And Mayor Noseworthy.
Yes, thank you. I believe the next, Faye, you're up for the next order of business as well.
So you raise your right hand and repeat after me, as inserting your own name. I. Do solemnly declare that I will support the Constitution of the United States. That I will support the Constitution of the United States. The Constitution of the State of Colorado. Constitution of the State of Colorado. And the Charter and ordinances. And the Charter and ordinances. Of the City of Durango. And that I will faithfully. Perform the duties of City Council. Perform the duties of City Council. For the City of Durango. For the City of Durango. Congratulations.
We will now take a break and the changing of the council.
I was just. Test.
Our 16?
Yeah.
We go back to our group goes back to like the 80s. Probably the 90s.
I guess I better turn my mic on. I'm only taking over right now as Mayor Pro Tem until we finalize some of these procedures. So we're going to get back to work. We are on, just to remind the new counselors. When you hit this button, it turns green. If you haven't heard that, that's okay. And then most of the time we keep it off. It like reduces static for the video. Okay. Before we get going, I just wanted to welcome our incoming counselors. I think I also wanted to thank Harrison Went, Carter Rogers, and Douglas Snow for running. Campaigning can be grueling, but I think that they did a great job. I hope that they learned a lot along the way. I also think that campaigning can be fun. You learn a lot about our community and citizenry, so hopefully they found it that way. I want to welcome Councillor Yazzie and Councillor Woodruff. Congratulations on successful campaigns. Really, truly, in the end, it doesn't matter about vote counts. In the end, we're all a team, and you are on council. So thank you for all of that. And I know it was stressful though. So I'm glad that we are here where we are today. I think both of you will be up and running quickly, but I just wanted to say that if I could help with any of that onboarding in the process, if you have questions, open line of communication, always please. And I know that Councillor Buell and Councillor Bosmans would say the same. So we're here to help. I know you'll get up and running quickly. I know staff will also help, but I just wanted to publicly let you know that I will do that. And I thank you in advance for your commitment and service. Do you guys want to add anything?
No, welcome aboard. We're excited to get this new team rolling. And yeah, if you need anything or have questions on anything, feel free to reach out. Definitely, I'm excited.
Same. Congratulations. Welcome on board and let us know.
All right, with that, I believe we need to have an election of a mayor. We are void of one at the current time.
So do we just make a motion? I don't know how this okay. I'll make a motion to appoint Mayor Pro Tem Youssef as mayor for Durango.
Second. And then we always, after a first and second, we always see if there's any discussion.
I just want to say that in the 2 years that I've served, you've provided like the best leadership and guidance, and I'm so excited to work under you as the mayor. So thank you so much.
I'll make a little comment too. If you remember the first budget retreat of the council retreat, there was a question on who would you go to for support or questions, and I think you were picked by 3 or 4 of the other councillors. So I think that shows. Thank you.
Yes. You will vote. Councillor Bosmans,
Yes.
Councillor Buell,
Yes.
Councillor Woodruff,
Yes.
Councillor Yazzie,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Youssef.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. Just I'm talking way too much tonight, but I just want to let you guys know that I'm excited at the opportunity to serve as your mayor. I truly, I'm looking forward to it. I'm comfortable assuming the position. I have a little bit more experience than I did last time, but, and I'm committed to dedicated the time and energy. To me, I'm looking forward to building on the positive working relationships that I have with all of you and keeping those positive, open lines of communication. I think it's critical to our success as a team. And being able to work together to create an environment that actually allows all of us to work productively as a team is something I'm really going to focus on. I hope that we will be able to have a treat together in May where we talk about our rules of engagement, talk about our code of conduct, talk about what we expect of each other. And I think that that will be helpful for all of us as we move forward together in working productively. That way we can hold ourselves accountable. And it won't just be me as mayor, it will be all of us reminding each other of what we agreed to as a team. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going to work hard to run efficient and effective meetings. I'm going to try to follow Robert's Rules of Order to the best of my ability, and I'll look to you guys to guide me in that process. I'm definitely not an expert in it, but hopefully together.
We have an entire book here.
Yeah, thanks.
Faye has 3. We were in her office yesterday and 3.
I definitely hope that I can lead by example. I understand my role as a counselor in the community. I respect my role as a member of this team. And I appreciate and understand the rules of engagement of how I'm expected to interact with our staff as counselors. We have a lot of work to do. We have a solid plan of action through our strategic plan that the 3 of us have worked to develop with the previous 2 counselors. And I look forward to onboarding you with that, any questions you might have. But specifically, some of the key initiatives that are going to keep us busy in the next couple of years are going to be our housing innovation program, continued focus on continued community engagement, communication, and outreach. I think that this will be an area of focus for us this coming year as we recognize that there's some room for improvement there. 2005 sales tax reauthorization will need to be addressed at some point in the near future. Continued development of Durango Mesa Park and continued focus on our environmental and sustainability and resiliency efforts. I'm also looking forward to continuing our partnership with our local agencies such as La Plata County and our County Road 250, 251 road intersection and development, the Durango Fire Protection District. Did I say that right? Thank you. DFPD in finalizing a downtown location and for a fire station and a city civic center for the city of Durango. In working with 9R on a possible swap of Buckley Park for Carnegie Building, and in working with the Southern Ute Tribe on the development of progress of Three Springs. So I think we have our work cut out for us. We are set up to do some good work together, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you. Looking forward to serving as your mayor. I think it's an honor, and I thank you for your vote of confidence. And with that, I think we need to have at least Jessica switch with Dave for now, so that we have, okay, Mayor Pro Tem, and then we can switch. Okay, oh, good idea. So now we need to have the vote for the Mayor Pro Tem, please. And I think as mayor, I can make a motion. We did that in the past. So I would like to nominate Councillor Buell as Mayor Pro Tem.
And I will definitely second that.
Any discussion? May we have a roll call, please?
Counselor Bosman's,
Yes, and I do expect a speech from you too. No, just kidding.
all right, Counselor Buell,
Yes.
Counselor Woodruff,
Yes.
Counselor Yazzie,
Yes.
and Mayor Youssef.
Yes. Okay, now maybe we can switch, at least for you two for now. See how we feel? Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you. Hard to make you guys do that in the middle of the meeting. Oh, now we have to do administration mode. Yeah.
And
I didn't want him to waste his night. Okay, there we go.
So I'm gonna do one at a time just because of the different positions. So.
Who first?
Do this one.
Okay.
All right. And other folks? All right, so if you wouldn't mind raising your right hand.
Okay.
And you'll repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Melissa Youssef,
Do solemnly declare
do solemnly declare
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Durango,
and the Charter and the ordinances of the City of Durango,
and that I will faithfully perform the duties of mayor of the City of Durango,
and that I will faithfully perform the duties of mayor for the city of Durham.
I, Jessica Buell. Do solemnly declare.
Do solemnly declare
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
The Constitution of the State of Colorado.
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
And the Charter and ordinances of the City of Durango.
and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Durango,
And that I will faithfully perform the duties of Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Durango.
and that I will faithfully perform the duties of Mayor Pro Tem for the City of Durango.
Thank you. All right, with that, we're going to move on to roll call. Looks like of our new council.
Counselor Bosman's,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Buell,
Here.
Counselor Woodruff,
Here.
Counselor Yazzie,
Here.
and Mayor Youssef.
Here. Do we have any actual or perceived conflicts of interest? This is a question we ask at all of our. Okay. All right, with that, we'll move on to city operational updates.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We do have one update. Luke Alvey Henderson, our library director, will just do a brief overview on the library district operational update. We did think with the new counselors, it'd be a good opportunity to provide a brief update. Obviously, we are a little bit behind the estimated timeline, so we will be sure, Luke, to kind of make this a little more simpler, but we did want to have at least a couple items on this agenda for the council. So Luke, it's yours.
Mayor and council, thank you for letting me be the first operational update, one of many to come, I hope. So our current counselors may be wondering why they're seeing this so soon as March 21st study session. That's because there was an incorrect date in there, April 2021 versus November 2024. We want to correct that as a matter of public record and to have our new council members have a quick look at what a library district is, the why behind a library district, how that fits in our organizational structure going forward. So this is an update, no decision recommendation of any kind is needed tonight. So what is a library district? A library district is a public library that is established as its own taxing authority. So it is established by one or more governmental units. In this case, it starts with the county because the proposed district, a good deal of it falls outside of city limits, so it has to start with them. It is a political subdivision of the state as opposed to being another municipality, and it has an appointed board of trustees, a library governing board, as opposed to a library advisory board. So just a quick timeline. In April 2022, the Public Advisory Group presented a financial analysis of possible funding scenarios, stay the same, extend services versus recession versus not. And that's where the second step of that was to look at a survey done in October 2022 at a proposed 3.65% mill rate and to see the public support for that. That came back with over 70% support in that one survey. And so it was unanimously recommended by Lapata County Commissioners and Durango City Council to look at a petition process for the establishment of a library district for the start of that process. And of course, we'll go over what a petition process is in this case in a moment. So that's the what, the why. Well, library districts on average provide greater funding for libraries than non-districts. They have more stable growth in their funding, more like this than, the kind of this you can see in other city departments or county departments. And they see larger growth in services. So not just more money is spent, but you see growth in how the services are given and how they're used compared to non-districts. And specific to our community, since our funding starts from the joint sales tax funds, that would free upwards of $3 million for other community initiatives, which it was part of the survey to see where the priorities would be from the community just to get started. Here's a look at all the different districts, the shaded areas. As you can see right here, Boulder is not shaded. It will be soon. That was just approved in the 2022 election. So as you can see, the vast majority of the state is getting covered when it looks at the larger municipal areas. They're going districts. So there is a proven and established method of doing this. I said there was a survey. It found 70% in favor. The next largest one was undecided. And of those undecided, the vast majority of people said, what would make you change it? That would be a lower mill rate. That is going to be looked at with the county assessor's office with new numbers. Could that be accomplished at a lower mill rate? That is part of the process. But if you look at likely voters and registered voters, it goes quite up. There is a plus or minus 5% margin of error. Plus, you also have to take into effect there's a halo effect with libraries. Libraries are loved. So people are more likely to say, I'd be happy to spend money in a poll. Doesn't always equal the same thing when it comes to ballots. So we do not think this is a ready for ballot initiative. We feel like it would take a very concerted campaign of education and endorsement. This is the proposed district area that was looked at for the survey purposes and the financial analysis purposes. That's not finalized, but it would probably look something very much like this. This was done by the county, who would also be responsible for the map going forward. And basically, it's just the rest of La Plata County that isn't already covered by library districts. As you can see, there are 3 other library districts in our county currently. This is just a quick look at that 3.65% that was proposed. And this was done, as you remember, in 2022, and it showed about $5.036 million first year. So that would be, if you look at our $3 million now, a very large jump in funding because of inflation and other concerns, because you don't want to go back within 10 years. And that looks at a possibility of 2039 as going back to voters. Of course, those numbers would have to be adjusted well before a ballot so that they'd be a little more current and people would be making a informed decision. Because as we know, property values are going to change quite a bit this year. So I said a petition process was recommended. And what that is 100 registered electors in that white area that's the proposed place. The county would then review and affirm those signatures. That's at least a 2-week process. And then they may pursue a joint resolution where they say, hey, we're proposing a district. They have to have public hearings. And the city would then have 60 days, whether to join in that joint resolution or just allow the county to do it themselves. And so there could be multiple public hearings. So there's ample chances between now and a vote, depending on the mechanism that the county and the city chooses for public engagement and debate before even a vote is put to the ballot. The next step in that petition process is an issues committee. This is just the state's legal definition of what an issue committee requirement is. But basically, it is required for pretty much any ballot initiative, because if you have more than 2 human beings spending more than $200, you need an issues committee. That's currently being formed. It's being spearheaded by support by the library, county commission, and our library board president, Bill Lemaire. Currently has about 12 provisional members, and they report directly to the state. There's one individual member of this who's registers with the state to report every single dollar that comes in and dollar that goes out in spending. And an issue committee would be responsible for the petition process, campaigning, public forums, all those kinds of things. The library as an institution will just be offering informational support, because of course we cannot provide campaigning or money for a ballot initiative. And again, the county is providing a lot of information goes to the county first. They'll define the legal service area, that map, and they'll be the ones to finally set that mill levy. Issues committee is currently working on setting up meetings with them to get that stuff set down and defined so they can do a petition process, because that has to be set out so that they're petitioning on the correct mill levy that will go to ballot. And they will then establish, who's going to be the governmental units. Of course, that's already established, is the county and the city, because we are already a county city library. And here's just a real quick kind of draft timeline of what that can look like. As I said, 1 to 2 weeks after the petition received, they can do a verification and notice that they're doing a joint resolution or not. They can just have to have a meeting where they say it goes to ballot. If there is, the city has 60 days to decline participation, but they have to have a meeting or hearing if they do participate in a joint process. It is a minimum of 30 days wait from notice to when the first public meeting can be held, so that it's not just, hey, we're going to do this, and then there's a public meeting. There's a very staggered process. There will be an interim board of trustees. That does not mean that will be the permanent board of trustees. And then there is an intergovernmental agreement with the trustees so that they can set up what their basic, rules and duties are, how they elect new members and so forth. But the actual intergovernmental agreement with the library district is not legally required until 90 days after the election. There's a lot more dates than this. There's Tabor dates, there's notice dates, but this is just kind of a broad timeline to show you there's a lot of steps in between saying this district and a petition to the election itself. The next steps is we are helping aid in the formation of the issues committee, and then we will give them information in support of pursuing a petition process. And we and the issues committee will report to county commissioners and city council on next steps upon that, and informational support throughout the ballot process that would be held no sooner than November of 2024. And that's it for like a really quick overview of a lot of information. So I'm happy to take any questions you have.
Council questions?
Just one quick one, more of like information. What do you expect the timeline to be from the vote? Say it does go into like a yes vote, and then what does that timeline look like for actual implementation and then creating that district?
That is a great question. We will, as a library, probably come back to you and make a recommendation for, a consultant to come in, because there are library district formation consultants that make those processes far more streamlined and, tend to save more money over time. Of course, the district will pay for that. And that would, because once a district is formed by the election, it's a district. And so how that actually looks in the changes is going to depend on council action. I can tell you, just as a spoiler alert, I will come to you in the near future and say, boy, it would be really great if the city can work with the proposed district on an IGA understanding, but not finalized before the election, so people can make an informed choice, on some key issues that are going to change what the kind of cost is for a district. And, there's only so that people can make an informed choice on, say, issues like, is the library district going to buy the building back wholesale? And, is the library district going to lease the land or purchase the land? Or is it going to start with a lease and then be renegotiated at a future date? Those kind of big issues are going to make a difference between a yes or no vote for a lot of voters. And so we will come back and ask, hey, what is the way the library as a department can best support that as a council and a city manager's office and budgeting office and finance and all those others, to at least have some frameworks understood for the public.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
How are you on the issues committee right now? Like, how far along are you? When do you anticipate you having it completed? Do you have any interest in it so far?
So yeah, we have about 12 members, and I'm sorry. Yes. And we hope to have, my goal is to have them ready to, have real formal meetings with county assessor's office to start getting this ball rolling, hopefully by the end of May. I believe that's achievable, that of the members they're selecting, that they can get the start of what is the map, what is the mill rate, and get some of those answers, so that by the end of May, they can start that, and hopefully a petition process could be done, if they decide to go forth at that time, as opposed to delaying for a better time for a petition process, they'd be ready for the petition language sometime in June, hopefully.
And of these 12 members that you have interest in and potentially are going to be a part of this, I think it's important because we do have some people that aren't supportive necessarily of us going out to ballot. Are they members of library staff? Like, how are they?
It will be no staff members. We have one board member, and then the rest are just, engaged community members currently.
Excellent. Thank you.
Forgive my ignorance. The board of trustees that will be that interim, will those be appointed, or are they part of an elected process? Or are you gonna, how does that process
They're
go?
traditionally, they're usually appointed, and our current library advisory board is currently appointed. And so traditionally you follow that process, but it doesn't have to be. That can be set by, that process, but I foresee them being appointed by city and county. And then, then working in IGA to see if that continues, or what the mechanism would be if the board itself would like to see a change in that, a mechanism in the IGA for how that could be pursued.
Thank you.
I just had one question for you, Luke. That map that showed the 3 other library districts in Durango, I hadn't seen that before. That is interesting. And I hate to put you on the spot, but I wonder if you can tell me generally when those other districts were adopted.
So I know that the most recent one is the Southwest La Plata County District. That's actually a couple of places that used to be part of the Durango Public Library system when we were a multi-branch system. And that was just a couple years ago. And they're a nice tale for us about how important the deadlines are, because they actually got the district, but did not meet their June filing deadline. So they couldn't finance their district. So they had a year of limbo of legally being a district with $0 and 0 cents of funding. The Pine River, that's our, Bayfield Library. And then we have Ignacio. I'm not so sure when they formed. I'd have to look that up. That's flittered away.
But it's been a while.
It has been. Those have been established for a while. They
10 years.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and Pine River recently had to go back to ballot, and they had to do it twice. The second time they were successful because they had to change their mill rate to get more funding.
Great. Thank you so much. Any further questions from council? All right, we'll move on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. Okay, we're going to move on. We have no public hearings tonight. Right? Okay, and we're moving on to introduction of ordinances. We have a first reading of an ordinance to adopt an increase to the Durango Fire Protection District impact fees. So thank you for being with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Will we start with your comments?
Sure.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
I'd love to make some comments.
Let's start with your comments.
Perfect. So I was briefed as we were preparing the resolution that brevity would be the key to my success. So I'm sticking with that theme. In 2016, the Colorado State Legislature opened the door for fire departments, emergency service agencies to receive the benefits of getting impact fees to help them build out infrastructural needs as their communities grew. And from that point forward, Durango Fire Protection District started down the path of hiring a consultant and trying to figure out what reasonable impact fees might be for our community to help us with the needs that we have. I'll remind you that you're served by Durango Fire Protection District under a contract. It's a 15-year contract of which we've expended, I believe, 8 years. So we've got 6.5 or so left. And we cover a district that is from the top of Coalbank Pass to the state line at Bondad. So 58 miles long on the north-south axis. And we serve that through the use of 16 fire stations and about 180 people between volunteer, part-time, and full-time employees of the district. We provide both fire and rescue services as well as advanced life support, ambulance transport services. And so that's what it is that we're trying to fund and we're trying to support. as we do this. In 2019, the city council at that time voted to enact impact fees within the city of Durango. And you were the first to do that as a governmental entity. Recently, we did a restudy and updated our fees so that we could get La Plata County and San Juan County, of whom we cover a very small portion of that county, to follow in kind. And so we've now secured the governmental entities throughout all of our district, and we have the opportunity for a balanced impact fee across the entirety of our fire protection district. What it would take to finalize that is that there was a difference when we did the restudy based on really two key factors. One was that construction costs have gone way up. And the second is that the availability and cost of replacing rolling stock items is significantly higher. And we're looking at about a 3-year wait period to order a new fire truck or a new ambulance at this point. And so we're coming to you asking for a recraft, commitment to bringing the fees up to what the newest study shows that they should be. And to give you just a brief reminder of what that looks like, that is increasing the residential impact fee from $819 per residential unit up to $1,317. So it's an increase of $498. And we're looking at increasing the non-residential cost per square foot from $1.64 a square foot up to $2.32 a square foot. And both of those are based on the math problem that you get from looking at what our projections are for capital improvement needs. As a reminder, the impact fees only go to fund capital items such as bricks and mortar projects and rolling stock. So we're not using this to purchase people. We're not using this to purchase small items, things like that. We're only committing this to the major capital needs that we have to support the community. And as I said, the county, La Plata County, as well as San Juan County, both approved their resolutions and locked in at these new rates. And so asking you to follow suit with that would level the playing field and make the impact fees the same across the entirety of the fire protection district. I'm glad to answer any other questions that you've got, but I do want to keep this brief. So.
Appreciate it. Before you answer questions from council, if there are any, I think I'm going to open the public hearing and see if we have any comments. Do we have anyone that would like to speak? Do you know, Ben? Either publicly or
believe
virtually?
this is a public hearing.
I thought this
Mayor.
was a public hearing. Oh, it's just an
There,
ordinance.
there was a little confusion over the way the last one was noticed up. And there was
Okay.
some opportunity for public hearing, but I'm in favor of opening it up for public hearing on this time. I mean, I recognize I'm with Jose. It's a little, it's first reading, but I've been kind of going through our charter and thinking about the last meeting, and taking public comment on it wouldn't, there's no harm to it at this juncture. So.
Okay, my guess is we probably don't have that much. We don't have a sign up and we don't have anyone here unless someone in the audience would like to join us. And I don't know if we have anybody virtually.
No, Mayor, we don't have anyone virtually.
So maybe it's a mute point, but I just, thought I apologize for that confusion. So I think we can have council questions if there are any for Hal.
Why don't you close the public hearing?
Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. Thank you.
What is the ordinance number for this?
This would be ordinance number 2023-10.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number O-2023-10.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, may we have a roll call, please?
Counselor Bosman's,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Buell,
Yes.
Counselor Woodruff,
Yes.
Counselor Yazzie,
Yes.
and Mayor Youssef.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'll expect then another public hearing at the second reading. Is that correct in the procedure?
Actually, the second reading doesn't require a public hearing.
It does.
It does not?
Does not.
It'll typically be on consent agenda.
Great. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it.
Okay, with that, we're going to move on to council reports and actions. Board liaison, boards and commission council liaison reports. We're going to start with Creative Economy Commission.
I thought I did that one the last meeting. I think that this is old, but I have others since then.
Okay.
So I have.
Just as a clarification, we didn't, if we
Oh, that's
ran
right.
late.
It was
and we
late and we
decided to
did it.
Pass it on, but.
Okay, you're right. Okay. So I'll start with the Creative Economy Commission, which I don't have my notes ready, but I can wing it off the cuff. So we did our retreat where the board members kind of sat down and talked about like big future plans, our like big goals, what we've met in our plans, what and then going forward with the potential dissolution of boards, how it was going to look, what Durango Creative District is doing. So Creative Economy Commission is like really well situated for this process that we are going through right now, because Durango Creative District actually there's a lot of overlap and crossing over. And so where we did our big retreat, they did their retreat the next week. And then pretty much Tommy and Kathleen are going to meet and kind of get it all aligned and figure out where we're going to need to fill in the gaps. We kind of determined that when it comes to lodgers tax, like funding, that we're going to have working groups for that, because there's going to be so many conflicts of interest on the DCD board to vote on like how to allocate lodgers tax funding, if that makes sense. And we can already foresee that there was already some on the Creative Economy Commission even. And so we kind of decided, and Tommy thought it'd be a great route that would be one of like our working groups that we do with the Creative Economy Commission. Anyways, it was productive. And yes, so that was awesome. And then I had the Alliance meeting that I went to for Counselor Baxter, and we heard from the wildfire shed protection, like we just kind of heard yesterday too, but we got an update from them. We got an update from the Fort Lewis School of Business. Gilda Yazzie was there and introduced herself as the next counselor. And then did I miss anything that was there? I'm trying to remember. I didn't take notes on that one for some reason.
It was a good meeting.
It was a great meeting.
It
Yeah.
was a good meeting.
I think that was kind of the biggest deal. And then we had the RHA meeting that I also went to last week. And we talked about the Catalyst Fund. They have their website is up. The first round is open. They had five applications for the first round, very diverse. It's all about housing projects. Or sorry, if you guys don't know what the Catalyst Fund is, the RHA is kind of funding workforce housing projects all around like Bayfield, Ignacio, Durango. Yes. And so there's 5 applications, very diverse. They're going to hope for the beginning of May, an award. So it was interesting because they said every project asked for funds in a different way. Some was to help with surveys, some was to help with market studies, some was to help with buy downs. So there was not like one thing that developers and builders needed. It was like a very diverse bunch of applications, and asks range from $25,000 to $75,000. And the total ask is $250,000. So there's that. We have our DOH housing workshop in July. And so that will be interesting. And yeah, those were I think, today I went to the 9R thought leaders meeting. It's a meeting in the morning. It was the last meeting for the year. But they talked about they talked about their preschool program, which they're getting funded for, which is super exciting. So they've had 4 elementary schools that have provided preschool for years and years and years. And now every elementary school will provide 5 days a week of preschool. I know, because like when my son went there, it was only like 4 days and like half day. And it was kind of crazy with working so now it'll be 5 days a week, full days. It's big state funding or federal funding for that. I don't know which one. And so they talked about that. They also talked about staffing maybe being an issue and housing and that sort of thing. But that was a great program that they're going through. And then they talked about redistricting potentially for their board, because when you talk about if someone goes and runs for a board and their renter, what happens if they move out of the district? They don't get a lot of applications potentially from certain districts. And so some might have like 4 people running for one seat and one has none. And so they were getting feedback from us about that, but it was very interesting. So I think that was it. That's all I did. Yeah, you're welcome.
And then Councilor Bosman, you don't have any? Okay, okay. And then with that also, I wanted to give our interim city attorney an opportunity here to make some comments.
Thank you, Mayor Youssef. Although I am still your interim city attorney until the 1st of May, when Mr. Morgan takes over, this is, I anticipate, the last time I'll sit at the dais as your interim city attorney. And I wanted to offer a few comments. First of all, I'd like to thank City Council for the opportunity to have been the interim city attorney and to have worked in Durango. I have learned and confirmed since I have started in January that this is a great community. It is filled with passionate and engaged citizens and equally passionate and engaged elected officials. It has been challenging, it has been interesting, and I'm glad you gave me the opportunity to do it. I'd also like to thank the staff in the city manager's office and the city manager who have been to a person helpful, accommodating, receptive, and highly tolerant of the fact they were dealing with someone who was brand new to Durango and who was going to be a short timer from the beginning. And yet they treated me with kid gloves and were very, very helpful. And I could not have remotely struggled through what I've done without their assistance. And I'd like to say thanks. And I am certain that I have had conversations with your new city attorney, Mr. Morgan, again this afternoon to talk about transition. At his direction, I will be around to provide some of that, but I don't intend to tell him how to do his job. You've hired a new city attorney, and I think you'll be happy with him. And he and I think, will work out how to make it happen as successfully as possible. Lastly, I'd like to note that because this is the last meeting, if you don't mind, I'm going to strip off my nameplate when I'm done and take it home as a souvenir of the experience that I've had here in Durango. And again, I say thank you all. So, and thank the staff as well.
Well,
That's
thank
it.
you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much. You've provided critical coverage during a very important time for us. And we really appreciate you being present and being here and all of your help. So thank you so much. Counselors, do you want to say anything?
No, just thank you. I know it was tough and yeah, a little bit of a crazy situation getting thrown into. So I appreciate your flexibility and your willingness to work and give us your time and come down here often. So
I
thank
would
you.
like to note, Mayor Pro Tem, that this is the first trip I have made down to Durango where it has not snowed heavily. And yesterday I had the pleasure of having lunch outside on the tables in front of El Moro in the sunshine. And I thought to myself, this is the first time I have not seen snow piled up on the edges of the buildings in the shadow or in the sun since I started in January. And I had the pleasure of taking a long walk along the Animas River Trail yesterday, which I've been meaning to do, but quite frankly, up until yesterday, weather really wasn't conducive to that effort. So it is both an engaged and passionate community, but it's lovely as well. So sorry, but thank you.
Yeah, I'll echo that as well. I really appreciate you filling in even for a short period of time. I think it was very constructive, and I hope you come and visit our little town, our little city more often.
I would like to bring my wife down in the summer.
There you go.
Well, with that, congratulations to the new team. We're happy to have you guys on board. I'm really excited. We have a lot of work to do, and I think we're going to do it very productively together. So I look forward to it. And with that, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.